Close your eyes for just a moment. Take a deep, slow breath. Feel the weight of the world around you, the ticking of the clock, the endless rush of your daily life. Now imagine leaving all of that behind. Imagine floating upward, away from the noise, away from the stress, and out into the infinite, silent ocean of space. We often measure our lives by days and years, trusting the steady rhythm of our planet. But what if time didn't work the way you thought it did? What if there was a place where the sun lingered in the sky for so long that an entire year would pass before the day finally ended? Today, we are traveling to our closest planetary neighbor. We are going to Venus, a world that is stunningly beautiful from afar, yet incredibly hostile up close, a world that breaks our understanding of time. Relax, let your mind drift, and allow the slow, heavy rotation of this golden sphere to guide you into a state of deep tranquility. For centuries, humanity looked up at the night sky and saw Venus as a shining beacon of hope. Because it is the brightest object in our sky after the sun and the moon, ancient astronomers named it after the Roman goddess of love and beauty. For a long time, we believed Venus was a twin to Earth. We knew it was roughly the same size, the same mass, and made of the same rocky materials. Before the age of space exploration, scientists and science fiction writers alike dreamed of what lay beneath its thick, unbroken layer of clouds. Many imagined a lush, tropical paradise, a prehistoric jungle world drenched in endless rain, perhaps even teeming with alien life. It wasn't until the mid-20th century, when we finally sent robotic probes to pierce that blinding white veil, that we discovered the shocking truth. Venus was not a tropical haven. It was a world of unimaginable extremes, a place where the laws of nature seemed to have been pushed to their absolute limits. And yet in this extreme environment, there is a profound, almost hypnotic beauty waiting to be understood. But to truly understand Venus, we must first look at how it dances with time. Let us address the most mesmerizing paradox of this golden world. On Earth, we are used to a simple rule. A day is the time it takes for a planet to spin once on its axis, and a year is the time it takes to orbit the Sun. But Venus plays by its own rules. To complete one single rotation on its axis, Venus takes 243 Earth days. It spins incredibly, agonizingly slowly, yet it completes its entire orbit around the Sun in just 225 Earth days. The math is simple, but the reality is staggering. A single day on Venus lasts longer than its entire year. Imagine that. An entire orbital year passes by, and the planet has not even finished turning around once. This strange reality completely shatters our perception of calendars and schedules. If you were standing on the surface of Venus, assuming you could survive the conditions, waiting for tomorrow would be a monumental task. The concept of a quick nap or waiting for the morning light takes on a deeply philosophical meaning here. Time itself feels stretched, pulled into a thick, slow-moving syrup. This is a perfect example to help you relax. Whenever you feel rushed, just remember that on Venus you would have hundreds of earthly days just to experience a single morning. The rush of the universe is an illusion. Here, time demands patience. Now let us uncover another bizarre secret of its motion. It is not just that Venus spins slowly, it spins backward. In the grand ballet of our solar system, almost every planet, including Earth, rotates counterclockwise. This is the inherited momentum from the ancient cloud of dust and gas that birthed our solar neighborhood. But Venus is a rebel. It rotates clockwise. This phenomenon is known as retrograde rotation. If the thick clouds were to magically part, you would witness something deeply unsettling yet beautifully poetic. The sun would rise in the west. It would drag its way across the sky for months on end and eventually set in the east. How did this happen? It is a question that has puzzled astronomers for decades. Let's debunk a common myth right now. Venus was not simply born spinning backward. The most widely accepted theory suggests a cosmic tragedy in its ancient past. Imagine the early days of the solar system, a chaotic and violent time. It is highly probable that a massive celestial body, perhaps a protoplanet the size of Earth, collided with Venus. This unimaginable impact was so powerful that it physically knocked the planet off its axis, or fundamentally altered its momentum, forcing it to spin in the opposite direction. It is a violent origin story that resulted in a uniquely peaceful, slow-motion rotation. As we drift closer to the planet, let us observe it from orbit. From the safety of space, Venus is undeniably gorgeous. It looks like a perfect, smooth pearl suspended in the black void. This flawless appearance is an illusion created by its atmosphere. You see, unlike Earth, where we have clear skies and shifting weather patterns, Venus is completely encased in a global layer of highly reflective clouds. These clouds reflect about 70% of the sunlight that hits them back into space. This is precisely why Venus shines so brilliantly in our night sky. It is a cosmic mirror, hiding its true face behind a veil of blinding light. Let us prepare to dive beneath that veil. Imagine wearing a highly advanced indestructible spacesuit. We are going to descend through the atmosphere of Venus. As we enter the upper cloud layers, about 60 kilometers above the surface, the environment is surprisingly familiar. The temperature and pressure here are actually quite similar to the surface of Earth. Some scientists have even suggested that if life were to exist on Venus, it would be floating right here, in the temperate zone of the upper clouds. It is a brief moment of comfort before the descent into the abyss. But do not be fooled by this brief temperate zone. We are surrounded by furious motion. While the solid planet below spins incredibly slowly, the atmosphere above is in a massive hurry. This is a phenomenon known as superrotation. The upper clouds whip around the entire planet in just 4 Earth days, driven by hurricane-force winds reaching speeds of up to 360 kilometers per hour. Imagine standing still on a very slow treadmill while a Category 5 hurricane continuously blasts past your ears. The contrast between the still ground and the frantic sky is one of the planet's greatest mysteries. As we sink deeper, the true nature of these clouds becomes apparent. Let's dispel the old romantic myth of rain on Venus. There is no refreshing water falling from this sky. The clouds we are drifting through are composed primarily of droplets of sulfuric acid. It is an alien chemistry that paints the sky in shades of pale yellow and sickly orange. The air is thick, toxic, and utterly devoid of water vapor. This is a planetary-scale chemical factory, endlessly churning out acid high above the unseen rocks below. And yes, it does rain on Venus, but not in any way we would recognize. Deep within the cloud layers, sulfuric acid rain begins to fall toward the surface. But it never arrives. Because of the intense heat radiating from the planet's surface, the acid rain evaporates long before it can touch the ground. This creates a haunting meteorological phenomenon known as virga. Imagine looking out and seeing ghost-like streaks of rain hanging in the sky, a perpetual downpour that is forever vanishing into thin air, returning to the clouds in an endless, futile cycle. We are now plunging deeper, passing the 30-kilometer mark. The light from the sun is struggling to penetrate the dense smog. The bright pearl we saw from space is fading, replaced by an eerie, omnipresent golden glow. The atmosphere is becoming incredibly thick. It no longer feels like air. It is starting to feel like a liquid. We are sinking rather than falling. This is where you begin to feel the true, crushing embrace of Venus. The pressure is rising exponentially with every meter we descend. We finally break through the bottom of the main cloud deck. The atmosphere below is surprisingly clear of clouds, but it is not empty. It is a dense, supercritical fluid of carbon dioxide. At this depth, the pressure is immense. Imagine the feeling of diving deep into the ocean on Earth and you feel the weight of the water pressing against your eardrum. Now multiply that feeling until you are a full kilometer underwater. That is what it feels like to stand on the surface of Venus. The atmospheric pressure here is 90 times greater than at sea level on Earth. Without our indestructible suits, we would be crushed instantly. And then your boots touch the ground. You have arrived on the surface of Venus. Look around you. You are standing in an eternal, golden twilight, because the thick atmosphere scatters the sunlight so aggressively there are no sharp shadows here. The light comes from everywhere and nowhere all at once. It bathes the jagged rocky landscape in a dim, rusty orange hue. It is an alien sunset that never ends and never begins. The stillness here is profound, a stark contrast to the howling winds we left high above in the clouds. Let us talk about the temperature. This is the most famous and perhaps most terrifying aspect of Venus. The surface temperature averages 470 degrees Celsius. That is nearly 900 degrees Fahrenheit. It is hot enough to melt lead. You might think that Mercury, being the closest planet to the Sun, would be the hottest. But let's debunk that myth. Venus is significantly hotter than Mercury. The reason is the atmosphere. The massive blanket of carbon dioxide creates a runaway greenhouse effect, trapping the sun's heat and never letting it go. What makes this heat truly hypnotic is its absolute uniformity. On Earth, we have seasons. We have the relief of a cool night after a hot day. We have freezing poles and sweltering equators, not on Venus. Thanks to the thick, insulating atmosphere and those super-rotating winds, the heat is distributed perfectly around the entire globe. The poles are just as hot as the equator. The dark side of the planet, enduring its months-long night, is just as blistering as the side facing the sun. There is no escape, no cooling breeze. The heat is an eternal, unchanging constant. Look at the landscape beneath your feet. It is a rugged, desolate expanse of dark, basaltic rock. Most of the surface consists of gently rolling volcanic plains. This is a world shaped entirely by fire and magma. Unlike Earth, Venus does not have tectonic plates shifting and colliding to form sharp mountain ranges. Instead, the surface is dotted with thousands of volcanoes. Some are small, hidden beneath the haze, while others are massive shield volcanoes that dwarf anything we have on our home planet. Let me paint a picture of one of the strangest geological features here. Imagine looking out across the plains and seeing massive circular domes of rock rising from the ground. They are flat on top and perfectly round, looking almost like giant burned pancakes left on a cosmic griddle. These are known as pancake domes. They are formed by very thick, sticky lava erupting slowly from the crust, spreading out evenly before cooling under the immense atmospheric pressure. It is a type of geology that can only exist in this specific high-pressure oven. Despite the extreme conditions, the surface of Venus holds a strange, serene beauty. The wind down here is practically non-existent. It moves at barely a few kilometers per hour, little more than a gentle breeze. But because the air is as dense as water, even this slow breeze has an incredible force. It pushes against the rocks, slowly eroding them over millions of years. If you were standing here, that gentle breeze would feel like a slow, heavy current in the deep ocean, gently pushing against your suit. Now let's explore how the extreme atmosphere plays tricks on your eyes. The thick carbon dioxide bends and refracts light in highly unusual ways. If you were to look out toward the horizon, it wouldn't look flat. The extreme refraction would bend the light upward, creating an optical illusion that makes you feel as though you are standing at the bottom of a massive, shallow bowl. The horizon seems to curve up around you in all directions, as if the landscape is trying to swallow you whole. It is a dizzying, dreamlike effect. What would it sound like here? Close your eyes and imagine the acoustics of this alien world. Because the atmosphere is so incredibly dense, sound waves travel differently. They travel faster, but they are also muffled and distorted. If you were to speak, your voice would sound remarkably deep, almost like a low-frequency rumble echoing through a heavy fluid. The sound of a volcanic eruption in the distance wouldn't be a sharp crack, but a deep, vibrating boom that you would feel in your chest as much as you would hear it. Despite this absolute hostility, humanity has actually touched this surface. We must take a moment to honor the incredible engineering of the Soviet Venera program in the 1970s and 80s. They were the first, and so far the only, missions to successfully land cameras on the surface of Venus and send back images. Imagine the tension in the control room as a small, titanium-armored sphere descended into the unknown, enduring crushing pressure and melting heat, just to give us a glimpse of this hidden world. Let's debunk a misconception about those probes. Many people think they landed and immediately melted into a puddle of metal. In reality, they were heavily armored and cooled internally. They survived for a fleeting, beautiful moment. The longest any probe survived on the surface was just over 2 hours. For 2 hours, humanity had eyes on the ground, sending back grainy, color-corrected images of the flat rocks and the orange sky before the immense heat finally overwhelmed their electronics and they fell silent forever. Those few images are our only direct connection to the surface. They show a desolate, fractured landscape covered in slab-like rocks. There is no dust blowing in the wind, no shifting sand dunes. The rocks appear sharp and angular, a sign that erosion is a very, very slow process in this environment. It is a landscape, frozen in time, baked into permanence by the eternal heat. Looking at those photos is like looking at a beautifully tragic painting of a world that took a drastically different evolutionary path than our own. This brings us to a profound realization. Venus is often called Earth's evil twin, but perhaps it is better described as a cautionary tale. Billions of years ago, the two planets were likely very similar. Venus may have had oceans of liquid water, blue skies, and perhaps even a climate suitable for life. But something went wrong. Venus was just a little bit closer to the Sun. As the Sun gradually grew brighter over millions of years, the delicate balance on Venus was tipped. The heat caused the oceans to evaporate into the atmosphere. Water vapor is a potent greenhouse gas. This led to a vicious cycle. More heat meant more evaporation, which meant more heat. Eventually, the oceans boiled away entirely. Without water to lubricate tectonic plates, the planet's internal heat built up and caused massive global volcanic resurfacing events. The volcanoes released unimaginable amounts of carbon dioxide, creating the suffocating atmosphere we see today. Venus is a stark reminder of the fragile balance required to maintain a habitable world. Yet even in this story of cosmic tragedy, there is a glimmer of hope, a spark for the imagination. Remember that temperate zone we passed through high up in the clouds? Some astrobiologists believe that if life ever did exist in the ancient oceans of Venus, it might have adapted and migrated upward as the surface became uninhabitable. Could there be microscopic, acid-resistant life forms floating in the upper atmosphere, riding the super-rotating winds? It is a tantalizing possibility that keeps scientists looking back at our neighboring planet. Imagine looking up from the surface, trying to find your home. You cannot see the stars from Venus. The thick cloud layer is an impenetrable ceiling. Even the sun is just a diffused, brighter patch of golden haze in the sky. If you were born on Venus, you would have no concept of the universe beyond your own sky. You would not know about the billions of galaxies, the shimmering nebulas, or the blue marble next door. You would be wrapped in a warm, eternal, blind embrace. But if we could clear the clouds for just a moment, Earth would be the brightest point of light in the sky, a beautiful pale blue dot shining against the blackness. It is a humbling thought. The two planets are so close in space, yet separated by such a vast gulf of circumstance. One is a garden of life, spinning rapidly through the days and seasons. The other is a silent, toxic furnace, where time itself seems to have given up and stopped moving. Let the slow rotation of Venus seep into your consciousness. Think about the energy we spend rushing from one task to the next on Earth. We are always chasing the daylight, always fighting against the clock. But out here, in the golden haze, there is no rush. A single rotation takes 243 days. Mountains erode over billions of years. The acid rain falls and evaporates in a cycle as old as the solar system. The universe is not in a hurry, and neither should you be. Whenever you feel overwhelmed by the speed of modern life, close your eyes and visualize this world. Imagine the heavy, silent air. Imagine the long, unbroken twilight. Shrink your earthly problems down to the size of a single pebble resting on the vast volcanic plains of Venus. Let the immense, crushing pressure of this alien world absorb your stress. Here, everything is still. Everything is permanent. There is only the slow, eternal turning of a planet lost in time. As our journey comes to an end, we slowly begin our ascent. We leave the jagged rocks and the heavy heat behind. We drift upward through the carbon dioxide depths, past the phantom acid rain, and break through the bright, shimmering clouds. Once again, we are floating in the cold, clear vacuum of space. Venus returns to being a beautiful white pearl in the darkness, but you now know the secret it hides beneath its surface. You know the slow, heavy rhythm of its heart. We have traveled far today, descending into a world where time stands still and the air is heavier than the ocean. We have walked the volcanic plains in an eternal twilight and felt the slow, hypnotic pulse of a planet that dances to its own retrograde rhythm. Venus shows us that the universe is full of extremes, but within those extremes there is a profound and calming beauty. It teaches us that our rushed perception of time is only one way to experience existence. When you look up at the evening star from now on, you won't just see a bright dot of light. You will feel the slow, ancient turning of a world that outlasts its own year. Thank you for joining me on this journey across the cosmos. I hope you found peace in the heavy silence of Venus. If this journey helped you relax or sparked your imagination, please subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and leave a comment below. I'd love to know, if you could safely spend one incredibly long day on Venus, what would you spend those 243 days doing?